record to cloud. I'm going to put us on that way so we're side by side. And welcome to Conversations in the Labyrinth, where we're going to create a ritual space. And then using a deck of tarot cards, we're going to simulate a walk through the labyrinth, where each turn of the card will determine the channel teaching that comes through. And I'm here with Joanna, and Joanna is a mystic in her own right, and an angel communicator, and a coach, and all sorts of wonderful stuff. And and I'm really psyched. And this is our first ever recording, and we don't know if this will go public or not, but we're going to do it anyway.
Exactly. You know, I love to throw caution to the wind and have fun adventures.
So here we go. So first, I'm going to invite everyone to get settled in, to put your feet on the ground, focus on your breath. Robert Moore wrote that all transformation occurs in a ritual space, in a sacred container. It's the cauldron that allows us to enter into the heat of transmutation, to turn our lead into gold. So we'll create our ritual sacred space by imagining in our mind's eye that we're facing the direction of the east. And if you associate an animal, an angel with the east, you can call to that spiritual being now. We welcome in the energy of the east, an energy of new beginnings. And in your mind's eye, turn a quarter step to the right, facing the south. The heat of the noonday sun, a place of doing, a place of action. We welcome all the spirits and angels of the south to help us with our work today. And turning a quarter step to the west, where the sun goes down, associated with death and letting go, but also healing, letting go of that which no longer serves, so that we can reboot our soul's programming, our natural DNA programming, to be whole. So we welcome that energy of letting go, of allowing that which no longer serves to die off. We welcome the West. In a quarter turn in our circle, we come to the north. A place of darkness, a place of the cold, also a place of mystery. A place where we can go inside and envision a new present, a new future. We look to the north and we welcome the light that shines within. And in some traditions, we also look in the north and welcome our ancestors who walk and work within the light of love for our highest good, the highest good of all in accordance to the will of the Creator. We welcome our blood ancestors, our karmic ancestors, our spiritual ancestors. Welcome. We turn once again facing east, and we look above, and we see in the sky above, the nighttime sky, hundreds of thousands of millions of stars. Each star could represent a possibility, And so from above, we welcome the energy of inspiration. And feeling the earth below. Mother Earth, as some may say, Pachamama in the south. The energy of nurturance, of giveaway. For the earth gives us all that we need. And in gratitude, we welcome the energy of the earth. And I invite you to feel your heart, feel your center of being, and welcome in the center, a place where all the directions meet. Welcome in your spirit guides, your power animals, your guardian angels, your teachers, your gurus, other gods and goddesses in your traditions. All beliefs are welcome, so long as they're for our highest good, the highest good of all in accordance to the will of Creator. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you
So
so much
welcome,
for that beautiful invocation. The call of the
thank
directions.
Joanna. So before we enter into the labyrinth, a little bit about labyrinths. Labyrinth, unlike a maze, is a twisting path that goes into a center and the same path that follows back out to the entrance. You cannot get lost in a labyrinth, whereas a maze, you can get lost. The labyrinth often has different metaphors for as a spiritual practice or a meditation practice. The one I love is that as we walk into the labyrinth, there's release. What am I letting go of? And then we get to the center of the labyrinth and there's illumination, the aha moment. And then as we leave with the aha moment, what are we picking up on our way to rebirth and leaving the labyrinth? And so I've always loved the image of the labyrinth. And a few weeks, actually a month or so ago, this tarot card spread, which I call the Labyrinth Spread, came out through me. And we're going to use that to guide our conversation today. I've prepared absolutely nothing for this channel presentation because nothing was coming to me for the last month. I was completely blocked. I didn't even come up with a question to start our journey. So to me, this is all about the spontaneity of what happens and what comes through. And certainly Joanna didn't prepare anything because she didn't even know I was going to ask her to co-host this session. So this is going to be completely crazy. And so we're going to start, and I'm using a deck of cards I haven't touched in years. Have you ever seen this deck of cards before, Joanna?
I have not.
That is the crystalline structure of DNA, and this is the Voyager Tarot deck.
Ooh.
The Voyager Tarot deck, unlike others, is not an illustrated deck. It's a deck that's a collage of photographs and pictures. So it invokes different types of your intuition and brain. And I bought it because someone had said to me on a workshop I was on, she said, you know, we're not used to looking at illustrations. We're used to looking at photographs and print magazines. And so this one resonates more with us. So I bought it. I thought it was really cool. And then I stopped touching it for a long time. And I looked, as I was looking through my decks, this one called to me today. So we're going to try this one and see what happens. So the first step in the labyrinth, and the thing I like about the labyrinth spread is it's all about the present. It's all about what am I going to let go of today? What aha moment can I have? What do I need to pick up? What do I need to activate to move forward today?
I love
tomorrow.
that.
Thank you.
Hey,
So
I
Go
have a
ahead.
question before we start, because you had brought up that breath being really important. And as you know how I start all my sessions, I start with a breath, a power of 3 breaths to shift us into that present moment. So do you mind if I walk us through that?
Let's do it.
All right. So you can just sit back, elongate the spine, roll the shoulders down, have a solid base. And so I call this the power of 3 breaths. And in the matter of 3 breaths, we can shift our energy. So the first breath is the breath of the past. So anything that's happened prior to this session that's not of service of this session, we're just going to think about those things on the inhale, and on the exhale, we're going to release them to the past. We can pick them up later if we feel like we need to. So inhale and exhale. Next breath is the breath of the future. So anything that's on our never-ending to-do list, anything that's future events that are taking place after the session that are not of service of the session, we're just going to think about those on the inhale and release them on the exhale to the future. So inhale and exhale. Last breath is the breath of the present moment, the eternal now, the only true moment that we have. And this breath is different because this one we just inhale and really savor this moment, savor this shared breath together. Then on the exhale, you can release with a sound. I like to release with the sound of ah, because that's the sound of the goddess. So you can, or you can go, you can do whatever feels good to you. So inhale and savor this breath. And
Thank you.
You're
I
welcome.
like that. I'm getting chills. So the angels like that too.
Oh yeah, I love bringing that breath forward. I had a beautiful mentor, Amber, who taught me that breath, and I've done my own little spin on it, but yeah, I love it. I love it because it's like you can do it
Great.
in 3 breaths, take, under a minute to shift your energy into this present moment.
And let's say at the gate of the labyrinth, what card is telling, what the card is telling us is, what are we entering the labyrinth with? So this is before we enter into the space. It's the 9 of Wands, and this is Wands deals with spirit on this deck, and the key word is integrity. And we'll hold this up to the, so you've got this little structure here and a statue. You've got a man walking a path over here. This is a spinal column. A man holding a wand, and a wand over here. Let me see what else is on the card. And a lot of birds flying, and there's water. Looks like a monk with his head bowed in meditation. And what calls my attention is this person entering into this temple right here.
Entering into that sacredness of this whole experience, right?
Yeah. 9 is a number of completion. And in the tarot, it's a number of near completion, because 10 then is the number of completion. So it goes against a little bit of numerology in that there's a number 10 and integrity. Integrity. I think of integrity as when I act in conjunction with my values. When I act in conjunction with my values. So what I'm hearing with this card, as this person in the card is entering perhaps into his or her labyrinth right there, is how are you acting in integrity or out of integrity in your life? And so that's something to consider in this moment. ask yourself, where am I acting out of integrity? Where do I have values and I'm not acting in conjunction with those values? And that's the question that I'm being called, that will guide us as we enter into the labyrinth itself. And Joanna, if you have anything to add, please do so.
Yeah. So when I think of the word integrity, I feel like some other words that go with that is congruency and consistency. And so I would ask, where am I feeling incongruent or congruent? And where am I feeling that I am being consistent or inconsistent?
Thank you. That's great. And to those of you who will be watching this, if we do release it, what part of the card is calling to you? Take a moment to pause the video and ask yourself, what is congruent in my life? What is incongruent? Where am I in integrity? Where am I out of integrity? And is there some part of this picture, this montage, that's calling to you? When we teach about accountability on the men's weekends that we teach, we give a definition of congruency as when my thoughts, my feelings, and my actions are all in alignment.
I love that. I'm telling you, the spinal cord is what really stood out to me.
Yeah, and what did it say to you?
Yeah, it's, that's, alignment. Also is another word that maybe some that are witnessing this might feel like, where am I in alignment, out of alignment? This past week, it's talking about breath, I took my community through doing a breath per chakra and helping us get into an alignment and feeling grounded, all of the higher vibe places of the chakra system. But we started with that, grounding in. So that's where I feel like right now, and that in the beginning of the journey, grounding in, seeing what it has to bring forth.
So as we enter in the first loops of the labyrinth, let me just show you here before we enter in the labyrinth. This is a picture of the labyrinth in Chartres Cathedral. Can you all see that? Can you see that on the screen?
Yeah, now it showed up. Yep.
Okay, good. So there it is. That is you could see we're looking straight into the entrance of the labyrinth and how the path twists. And it's hard to believe, but that entire circle of twisting paths is all one path. And in the end, you end up here in the center, coming straight down that way. And that's the moment of illumination. But we're not there right now. We are coming in here and entering the first turn of the labyrinth. And with that first turn, the card that I drew is the Child of Wands. So another wand card. And as I said before, wands are about spirituality. And the Child of Wands, which the child card, unlike the traditional page of the tarot, the child is the new beginnings, something new, and it's called the Seeker. So let's take a close look at this picture. We have a deer. We have some young men, a young boy going out, perhaps hunting to become a man. Looks like he's carrying arrows. Children in saffron robes here at the bottom. A mouse. I'm not sure what that is. I think it's a possum. Oh, there.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no. I think it's a coyote or a
okay.
Or a wolf.
Right. I'm not even looking in the book, so we're going by whatever comes up. And certainly a deer.
Definitely.
It looks like a young deer.
And what are the flowers in the corner, dear?
The flowers
Yeah, I can't.
Yeah, they look like dandelions.
That's what I thought, but I was like,
They
I'm
look
not sure.
like dandelions that are being blown off. And a lot of
Mm,
little children in saffron robes, and a boy in the center, bare chested, but he's meditating.
yeah.
Now it's just a him, but they can be girls too. This is the child card. And the first loop of the labyrinth, being called to let go of something. So tuning into this card, I'm hearing it's really time to stop the childish ways and expecting everything to be done just for you. Seeking, I'm hearing, because this is about letting go. So when you have to let go, seeking, what's the downside? And the downside that I'm hearing is that a child just, magically wishes things could be different and waits for his or her parents to do it. Wait for Santa Claus to bring me presents. But to act in integrity with my values, which is what we were being called to look at, where am I in and out of integrity and congruency in my life? If I'm a child, if I'm acting childish in my actions and my expectations, then I'm not going to achieve what I'm looking to achieve in life. So what it's saying is let go of the childish view that I just have to wish and it's going to happen. It's asking us that we have to take action too. We have to be an adult in this. I think it's great to look through magical things with the eye of a child, but then to act in accordance to that something's going to happen rather than think Santa's just going to deliver it. So that's sort of what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
How about you, Joanna?
And I'm thinking about this, also the element with wands, right? The element of air. So we can get caught up in just the dreaming of something or just the wishing of something. But if we don't go through all the elements, then we're not going to actually materialize something. So that's, something that I've learned in my process of, I don't even say manifesting anymore because we're always calling things in, but I want to be materializing things. So there is that. But then I would counter to what came forward for me is the grace with the deer coming forward, of the grace and the ability to just play and be childlike in that way of not taking it so seriously and forcing things to happen, but just to allow it to be. I feel like we were a lot more beings when we were children.
So part of the letting go is letting go of the seriousness of trying to force.
Yeah, because the thing is being adult, you can be real responsible, and it can be real. It doesn't feel nice and it's fun as being the playful child. So I like the kind of balance that you saw it in one way, I saw it in a different way, and we can both hold both of these in balance. Because if we go too much of super seriousness, then we do lose the play. But if we go too much into the play, we don't get shit done.
Right. Cool. I like that. And I just put out there's no right or wrong answer. This is our interpretation. And we're asking you, what is it called to you? Oh, a card flew out of the deck.
I love jumpers.
All right. So we've got another 9. The 9 of crystals. Crystals deals with the mind. And this is a cool card, because if you look at this card, you can't see because of the light. It says narrowness. So all these crystals are so packed together that the channels to get through them are very, very narrow. And it's interesting. So it's asking us to let go. I mean, let go of the narrowness, let go of narrow-mindedness, let go of thinking that there's only one way to happen. You were just mentioning manifesting work or materializing work. Everything I've ever learned about that type of work in law of attraction is we focus on the what, but we leave the how to universal spirit. So if we're very narrow-minded on how it has to happen, we're going to lose out.
Yeah, we don't leave as much room for the infinite potential of how things can show up in our life. And that's what came up with that kind of narrow-minded thinking, limited thinking. This card is saying the time for that cycle is to end, and really for us to open our mind and let that like expansion come in.
Interestingly, we just finished with the holidays of Passover and Easter.
Yep.
And in the Passover story, it all deals with leaving and escaping from bondage and slavery into freedom and God consciousness. And the Hebrew word for Egypt is Mitzrayim. So we always talk about leaving the land of Mitzrayim. But when you translate that, it means narrow place, the narrow place or the closed-in place. So, and as confirmation, I'm getting chills. I think you got some chills too.
Yeah.
For me, chills are sort of the angels stroking up and down my spine saying, you got it, you're on it, you're there. And so here we go. We just, Easter deals with rebirth and sacrifice for rebirth. And I remember I once heard Marianne Williamson giving one lecture on not law of attraction, on what do you call that? Course in Miracles.
Miracles, yeah.
And she's really, she's huge in Course in Miracles, teacher and follower. And a friend brought us to hear her speak many years ago. We're talking about over 20 years ago in New York City when she used to lecture once a month. Oh, wow. And the topic was remember the crucifixion, but focus on the resurrection. So here we're entering into this labyrinth and we're asking to be released to narrowness. Let us appreciate that we've been narrow-minded in some way, shape, or form, and be willing to let it go and open up to more wonder and mystery.
I definitely have felt with this Easter season, that coming forward even more of really feeling the new life coming forward. We've been through a lot of restrictions this past year, but I've just, like I was sharing before we got on the call, of like, I'm feeling spring in the air a lot. And to go back to numerology, this Easter fell on 4/4, and that's a gateway for stability and foundation. And we haven't had that happen since 1999.
Wow.
Yeah. So.
Well, after the year,
cool stuff.
Yeah, after last year, I think we need some stability. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Now here's a cool card. We're entering the major arcana, our first major arcana card, and the last card about letting go. And often I think this is like a really amazing card because it's a card of new beginnings. But it's the Fool, the child, the 0 card in the major arcana. We have the baby in the womb. We have somebody, looks like he's in or she's in free fall, a doll, a parrot and a toucan. There's an owl and a bunch of hands that are raised. And then you got this little guy here. I don't know what he's doing over there.
He's chillaxing.
Yeah. It certainly looks that way. I almost get the impression, it looks like he's like putting his head over through a hatch of some sort. And there are 2 toucans, there's an owl, there's a blue parrot. There's some other birds here, which are a little hard, a flower. There's an ostrich with his head up. The Fool is often about taking that first step with utmost trust and faith and no idea where you're heading. Some great stories in Scandinavian lore, the folk tales, call the Fool Boots. So if you ever read any of the stories about a character named Boots, that's the Fool, the simpleton. And And there are stories around there, stories from Russia. There are all sorts of stories about the simpleton who sets out because he thinks it's a great idea and ends up super successful when all the wise people failed. But this is in the position of letting go. So I think, again, this is calling us that it's time to own some of our maturity. That it's not a matter of just blindly saying, I'm just going to step out and wing it. It's calling us in this trip of integrity to grow up, I don't think it's telling us to lose our sense of wonderment, but it's asking us to enter into more of a maturity by letting go of the childish faith of just stepping out and saying, Santa's going to bring me everything. Asking me, I've got to act on it. I've got to take responsibility. That's the word I'm looking for. I've got to take responsibility for my actions, and I have to take responsibility for what I'm materializing and manifesting in the world. So I have to stop blaming someone else. I have to stop surrendering everything to some other power. I have to let it go so that I can empower myself. That's what I'm hearing about the Fool in this position of letting go.
And what really stood out to me on the image of the card is the juxtaposition of the child that's in the womb and this like new life, this like clean slate, this, we have that opportunity of bringing that forward, but then the juxtaposition of the owl that's on the card, and that's like this wisdom thing. And I always like think of the Fool as, we go on so many hero's journeys, heroine journeys, and that call to action is the card of the Fool. But, we've all come so far in our life that we've been on many fool's journeys or many heroes journeys, and it starts in this place. But we also carry the wisdom that we've had from all the previous journeys that we have. So it makes it like we're not entering the labyrinth the same. We carry everything with us from before. Like it's not like the first time you walk the labyrinth, right? And then it's like then you kind of have a cellular memory or understanding of how the twists and turns are gonna come. I don't know about you, but like I know that like you start on that path, you make that first turn, and you're really close to the center, but then you get taken out so far from the center, and then you get back to the center. And I think that's really a metaphor for life. It's like you get so close, and then you're not there, and you kind of have to backtrack, and then you come back, and you actually do find center.
So let's enter the center of the labyrinth. The Eight of Crystals. The Eight of Crystals. This is an interesting card. You have a synthesis of like some of this amorphous crystal, well-formed crystals, electronics. So you have the amorphous stones and then the crystals here and the electronics. And the card says synthesis. And 8 is a number of power, of strength. Crystal is a card of the mind. So it's another crystals card. So we've had 2 wands and now 2 crystals. And this is the aha. The aha. What is the aha? So I've let go of some of my childish ways. I've let go of the narrowness of having to focus on the how. I've let go of some of the magic of thinking that someone else is going to do it all for me. That they'll do some of it. They'll meet me halfway. Maybe they'll meet me 95% of the way, but I have to take some responsibility. And you said something really great. You said that when we enter the labyrinth again and again, when we go on another hero's journey, we're not starting at ground zero. We're starting at a new ground zero. We're bringing the wisdom we learned the last time with us. So the aha moment is when I'm in integrity, how do I put it all together? how do I put it all together? How do I step into the power of using my mind as a tool for living life in congruence with my values, rather than being ruled by my mind just sending me off in any direction? You know, I think that the brain, they say, is a great tool, but it sometimes it's subject to jumping all around, the monkey mind, and getting easily distracted. Like I think it was the movie Up, with the dog kept going squirrel, squirrel. You know, he kept getting distracted so easily, and the mind can do that. And sometimes the mind goes down the rabbit holes of doom and gloom, and it brings us out of our place of growth, out of our path that we want to follow. So how do we put it all together? So the aha is about welcoming the chaotic or the amorphous with the structure, and finding a place for both of them.
I love that. You know, that's so on my brand.
So
But
Joanna, what is your company brand name, so
it's
that
called
people know?
Beautifully Chaotic Mamas.
There you go.
And I say I am a PR rep for chaos. You know, people will use the word and that and a kind of more negative connotation of like, my life is so chaotic. I say, no, we need to embrace that like that's the breaking open. That's the place of understanding the systems and structures that aren't working for us, and then we can rebuild into new. And it's this dance that chaos and order have. We can build new structures that actually support the new emerging of who we are. So that's the work that I do. Like, essentially, if you boil it down to like one teaspoon, is helping people really understand this amorphous piece is nothing to fear, nothing to be scared of. It's actually such a great opportunity to shift your life into the place that you're desiring. Oh, just amazing. And so when you were talking about this synthesizing word, the other words that were coming up for me were what I've been working on a lot myself personally, is integrating. So integrating those wisdoms from my past into, okay, this is actually who I am. You know, part of my journey, I was going to be a therapist. And I kind of put some of that on the table because I never got licensed. But I'm like, now I'm bringing more and more of that into the work that I'm doing and talking about. I have an understanding of archetypes. I have an understanding of narrative therapy, because those were the places where I got really energized. Where I didn't get really energized was thinking about billing insurance, having to jump through a whole bunch of hoops, you know. And I see a lot of people who don't have therapeutic backgrounds are talking about archetypes. I mean, we're talking about it right here.
Yep. Well, every card I think in the tarot is an archetype of some sort.
Exactly.
It's an archetype. So it's beautiful. So synthesis, we have to marry chaos with order.
Yeah. And so the other word that came forward was systematizing. And so that where that squirrel brain can come, and you're kind of following every shiny moment, every shiny thing that's coming. If you actually create some systems, one of my beautiful mentors, Lisa Marie Grantham, she says, masculine structures support feminine flow. And I was like, you got to have it both, because you can't just, you know, kind of like you're saying, this childish thing, you can't just flow through life and expect, you know, all of the water in our world is defined by the land around it. You know, if it's a lake, then there's so much land around it and so much body mass. If it's an ocean, you know, it has coastline and all of that. So if we just let water spread itself out, it doesn't actually have the force or the channeling power. So yeah, so
Nice.
that's
the other
where
picture,
I'm at. Gotta have both.
yeah, the picture I'm getting is a marriage of the Emperor and the Empress card in the major arcana. And I'm not going to go through that right now in the deck, but the Empress is often about creation, just throwing it all against the wall and create, give birth, preserve life. And the Emperor is all about mastery of order and structure. And so you can't have too much order because then everything stagnates, and you can't have too much creation because then it's just wild and crazy and you'll never get anything done. But the marriage of both of them. So that's what we're being called to aha for. And it's time to leave the labyrinth. And as we exit, we have to pick some things up. So the first, and this deck of cards is interesting. It has no king and queen, but it has a child. We've already met the Child of Wands. It has a sage, which is the highest card, the wise one. Then it has the man and the woman. And the men are a lot about doing, and women are a lot about holding space, holding awareness. And understand that just because they're called man and woman, it doesn't mean that it has to specifically be a man or a woman, but the masculine aspect. You know, I almost wish that we had different words for masculine, feminine aspects archetypally, so people wouldn't get confused to say, "Well, I don't have a feminine in me," or "I don't have I'm not a man inside of me."
Oh,
But this is kind of,
tell me about it. It's hard to talk about it for people who don't, I guess, embrace it, of having both within
exactly. So
themselves.
this is great. This is called the Man of Worlds. Worlds deals with the physical. Pentacles or or coins in traditional tarot. Achiever. You see a guy winning a race. You see a fancy automobile. I don't know who these guys are, but I'm going to guess that they're either wealthy somebodies, or maybe politicians over here. These guys here. You've got a space structure, the first footprint on the moon. The Man of Worlds, Achiever. So what are we asking to pick up on our way out? And I'm going to say goals. Set a goal. I mentioned earlier when we were talking about manifesting work, you know, you set the what, and the universe will figure out how. Your angels, your heavenly support team, however you believe it, your higher self, your unconscious. So part of this trip, as we question what our values are and how are we living in or out of them, is are my goals in alignment, congruent with my values? And this card is asking me not only to question, are my goals in alignment with my values, but do I have any? Do I have goals? And set the what. So here we are. We asked, aha, marry the chaotic with the order. And now let's set some goals. What do you think?
Well, I think it's so interesting that we brought up that piece of masculine and feminine. And so I think early on, we were kind of talking more about this like visioning or intention setting. And that's kind of a more feminine approach to calling things in. Goals are very much of a masculine approach, and bring in that element of fire and that element of earth a lot more. Whereas with intentions, it's more about like believing and feeling, which is more of the feminine poles. So what I would say is that like we started at a place of like intentions, and now we're coming to a place of like we've got to do, like we have to do the things that we have to do with the goal setting. And so it's, you kind of have to do both, because you know we could just intend for a lot of things and never actually get anything done. Do you know about SMART goals? Have you heard about that?
Yeah,
So
I've thought those many a time.
Yeah, exactly.
Tell about SMART goals.
So SMART goals are, remind me what the S is, because I forget.
Specific.
Yeah, specific. So you have to, that's where you you have like a time and a space that, and you know what you're doing. It's not just like, I want more love. Well, if you really want to have love goals, you would say, I'm gonna message this many people in a week's time. So there's also, then that goes into the M, which is measurable. So you can measure, okay, did I make my mark? Did I not make my mark? A is something which goes with this card, which is achievable. It's something that you actually can fit into your schedule. R is reasonable.
Relative. I think
Relative.
relative. I think reason. There's relative, and there's one other word that could be used for it. Realistic.
Realistic. Yeah.
Which
yeah.
reasonable, realistic. You know, can I really do it? You know, like, you know, if I set a goal, I'm going to jump over a 50-foot skyscraper. Well, that's not really realistic. You know, I could run a mile. I could set a goal for that, and I might not be able to do it now, but it's realistic to think that no matter how slow I run, I could run a mile. So that would be realistic. And then relative, is it relative to what my destination is? Because a SMART goal are your intermediate steps along the way. So if my goal is to be able to run a half marathon, and I set a SMART goal for reading 3 chapters of encyclopedia, it's not really relative to this goal. It might be relative to one other.
Yeah, I forgot about that piece when it comes to SMART goals. It's like, is it actually serving what the goal is in the end? And then the last is time. And so that's, you got to put a date to it. You got to put a date. Or you have to also put how long, you know, how much time you're going to invest in this goal too.
Yes. Thank you. So SMART goals: specific, relative and realistic, measurable. Did I do it or not do it? Reasonable or relative, and then also time bound. When am I going to do it by?
Yep, you've got the
and achievable. Yep,
which is our card.
Can I do it?
Yeah,
I'm in an altered state right now. So here's the next card is interesting. Interesting. It's a picture spilling out flowers, and there's like a desolate scene. It looks like fog, and it's dark, and the card is the 6 of Cups. 6 is also often about relationships, and the caption is sorrow. Interesting that here we are talking about goals. We're talking about synthesis, letting go of narrowness, letting go of some of this childlike magical thinking without having to act for it, in integrity with our values, and sorrow. And what I'm hearing is it's very hard to move forward if I'm still holding on to grief in the past. That one of my teachers taught me that you just can't be an ascensionist. You can't, you know, go on the mountain and meditate and say, I'm going to read all these business books and go for achievement, if I don't dive deep into my sorrow, if I don't dive deep into my pain and heal it. Because what happens is, if I'm an ascensionist and I just keep climbing higher, it's like building my tower on a house of cards, that a little wind comes by and it knocks it all down. Whereas when I go deep and I do my sorrow work, Robert Bly talks about your ashes work in his archetypes of initiation work. Your Cinderella, your Cinderfella, who did their work in the ashes. You know, they were born golden children. Cinderella was born a golden child, and then as she was growing up, she ended up working as a maid, working as a scullery maid, doing all the work in the house, and treated like garbage, living in the ashes. Cinderella means ashes girl, ash girl. I think in German her name was Aschenputtel. Like, you know, ashen girl or ashen face. I'm not quite sure. I don't remember. So she did that work, and then after she could grow that appreciation for living in the ashes, the fairy godmother appeared and says, okay, now now you're ready for to enter into adulthood. So it's hard to enter into adulthood. It's hard to move forward with goals if we're still dealing with the emotional wounds that hold us back.
And those that come from childhood is what's kind of coming forward in that too, with all this child card work. You know, I've been doing a lot of integrating of different younger versions of myself, and it was of like sorrow of missed opportunities or missed goals, of where, you know, it wasn't right time, right placement for things, and not really kind of throwing the baby out with the bathwater of like, okay, so this part of this circumstance didn't work, but what is, going back to that Fool card, what is the wisdom that I can take from that forward in moving in this leg of the journey? And I love the flowers. I've also been thinking a lot about like gardening, and that you know, we don't just have beautiful flowers that come to our yard. You know, you got to get in there and you got to dig in there and till the soil and get it aerated and ready for the seeds to be planted.
Nice, nice. So the final card of what it's asking us to pick up or to act upon before we exit the labyrinth. Beautiful card, the Chariot. And I've got a picture of a chariot on here, of a Roman statue with like a star or a sun in his eye. Jupiter, which is a planet of expansion. There's a balloon. It looks like a falcon or a hawk flying. Also the moon, a silhouette of a horse, a surfer, and a moon buggy. The Chariot. I mean, oh, so much imagery on this card. I'm just going to move it up slowly. This is the card Emotion. So here we go. The ride is about to start. It's telling you now, okay, you got to act. Put on your seatbelt. Because for every step forward you take, it's going to get faster and faster, and things are going to start moving. So you set your goal, you do your sorrow work, and then start acting on it, start moving on it. That's the thing, you got to act. And if you act, you're going to be assisted. You get on that chariot and the horses are going to pull you. You get in that buggy of some sort and the engine's going to pull you, but you got to step on the gas first or push the lever forward to accelerate. And Jupiter is the planet of expansion. Horses, motion. Balloon, take flight. So this is a beautiful card to be exiting the labyrinth on. And what does it say to you?
Yeah, when I think of the Chariot card, and even the image of that that soldier with the flowers in his hair, that wreath of, it feels like victory. And so, I mean, we've gone through a year of like ups and downs. And I've been thinking about this theme of victory, and the battles that we are going along the way. And it's like, like for me, it's like keeping in that expanded, in that hope of like victories on the horizon.
Nice.
You can get very caught up, because you said that this is a card, is the emotions, right?
No, this is a major arcana card.
Oh, okay. I thought you said something about emotion. Well, we do have the moon there.
I said motion.
Oh, motion. We do have the moon there, and that emotional thing too is that, like, if we operate only from an emotional place and we don't bring, like you said, those other parts of us earlier on, then we're kind of like the waves of the ocean. You said there was a surfer on there too, right?
Yeah, there is. There's a surfer in the image of the horse. Yep.
Yeah. And so, you know, there's times when we get kicked off the horse. There's times when, you know, we fall off the surfboard, but it's about coming back, keep coming back and keep coming back to that vision of either victory or whatever your focus is, or coming back to the goals. For me, sometimes it's hard to set goals. It's way easier to set intentions, harder to set goals because there's such rigidity there. But I'm really learning about how I operate in structure, and that it doesn't have to be perfect, right? I can have a mistake or a failure or a misstep, but I can always come back into alignment, kind of going back to that first card of like, I can always come back to an alignment and not getting in this shame and guilt cycle about, oh, I didn't achieve this, and come back and say, okay, well, then why didn't this work? Well, maybe one of those, smart pieces I wasn't really honest with me when I was setting the goal. And now I'm like, oh, well, here's the reality. This didn't work. How can I change this to make it work, instead of just throwing the whole thing out and saying, because that's the child that's going to be the temper tantrum. I'm not going to do this because it didn't work.
Right. So let
somebody come save me.
Go. Nice. You know what I had this picture when you were saying sometimes you take a misstep or it doesn't quite work out. It's almost like you're on a highway and you get off at the wrong exit. You don't get
back on the road.
You don't get off at the wrong exit and say, I'm never getting on the highway again. I'm just going to live wherever I am here and stop, or I'm going to turn around and go home. You say, okay, let me get back on the highway. Maybe there's something cool at this exit that I missed. Oh, look, there's an ice cream stand, or there's a farm stand. Oh, I need gas, and I didn't realize that there's a gas station right there. And then I can get back on again. And then I get back on again.
That feels
always
like
in motion.
Like Jupiter. That feels like Jupiter. That feels like expansive of like, one of my mentors, she's like, she gives us permission slips. She's like, I'll give you permissions to have missteps and to have failures and to, to not, show up for the day, and then you can always get back on the horse. You can always get back on the highway, like you were saying. And so we can give ourselves a little bit more care in all of that.
So what happens now that we've questioned our integrity? We've asked, where am I in alignment or not? And in asking those questions, it's asking us to let go of some of the childish of which we might approach life. The magic of Santa will bring it for me, or throwing the temper tantrum when it doesn't go right, letting go of the narrowness of mind of how it has to happen, the rigid control, and the illumination of merging the chaos and the chaotic creation and swirl of energy with the order, and putting that together to create goals, smart goals, to do our sorrow work, the ashes work, to put ourselves into motion. It's not enough just to dream it. We got to act on it. And if we take a wrong step and we go in a wrong direction, let's turn around and get back on the highway and keep on going. And as we exit the labyrinth, what are we exiting into? This is so cool, Joanna. The Ace of Wands. Look at that card. It says illumination. Oh my goodness, I'm getting chills.
Me too. Me too.
Illumination. A new aha. We come out of the labyrinth with a new beginning, a new connection to spirit, to our higher selves, and a new awareness. If you've ever read any of the work of Paul Selig, his recent books, which I have not read, which are on my list, he talks about entering the upper room. And entering the upper room is taking your awareness to a higher octave. So you're still on the same scale, but you're on the higher octave. So you're looking at life from a higher point of view. It's the same life, you're just interpreting it differently and reacting differently. So here we are, we enter in the labyrinth and we step out. We step into a brand new beginning of an ace, of a one. Let me try to see if I can get, oh, there it is.
Yeah.
Of the one with a new illumination. Aha, ha. That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. And here I am at the beginning of the trip journey again. A new spiritual awareness that can only come from letting go of my childish tantrums, understanding my integrity, where are my values and am I acting in them, joining the chaos with the order, setting my goals, doing my sorrow work and acting. And all of that, being open to that aha moment that comes when we exit the labyrinth of illumination, of the light shining out from within us, and us seeing life from a whole different point of view and perspective. We enter into the Ace of Wands, a new spiritual awareness.
Love it. So what's really speaking to me in that image of the card is there's like these fractals, these pieces that we've picked up on our journey, you know, and there's some that are light and some that are dark and some that are related to the moon cycles, and there looks like a desert and the sky, and like it feels like all the elements are there. All of these things are coming and converging to this point, in that illuminated real aha point of like, we're coming back to the cycle again. We started in a place of wonderment and we started with the wands, and here we are coming to it also feels like a singular focus too, with that being an ace.
Yeah, thank you. What an incredible journey. So, wow. I'm gonna have to sit with this a little bit and really contemplate this, because speaking about it, I haven't had a chance to think about how is this going to apply in my life, and I'm sure it does, because this is universal message for everyone. I believe in the law of synchronicity, so I believe that this message is timeless. That whenever anybody, if anybody, gets a chance to watch this, if we release it, that it will be really timely when you choose to watch it. So for me and Joanna, this is going to be very timely right here and now, because we're in the here and now. If you watch this tomorrow or the next day, it'll be timely for you when you pick it up. That's what I believe, that fully in my heart and my being, in synchronicity. And continue to ask yourself questions. How does this apply to me? Where am I throwing the tantrums that life isn't working? And try to use the words loosely, not necessarily literally. And it may be a literal tantrum, but it may be little tantrums, it may be big tantrums. But think about, where are you complaining? Because complaining is a type of tantrum. Where are you opening up and seeking without ever realizing what you already have? Where are you narrow-minded? And are you willing to do the work? I recently read somebody wrote about good pain versus bad pain. And the bad pain is the sorrow that you're holding on to, the wounds, the fact that every time you set a goal, you get blocked. The good pain is the pain of working through it. It ain't easy working through emotional wounds. It takes blood, sweat, and tears. And it takes a lot of hard work, and it hurts. It's uncomfortable. Nobody wants to visit their old pain. However, when you do it with a skilled facilitator who can help you move through it, that's good pain, because in the end, you always feel better. In the end, you always feel better. So the good pain, are you willing to enter into good pain to let go of the bad pain? Are you willing to do the work to walk and move like it's a charioteer? And I think if you do all that, you can exit the labyrinth into this beautiful new beginning of spiritual illumination, entering into that upper room, looking at life from a higher octave of life. And it's interesting, we end this session tonight with a new beginning.
there's a lot of new energy right now. You know, we're in the first sign of the zodiac. You know, we're in Aries season right now. We just had Easter and Ostara, and we got a new moon coming up here soon. So there's a lot of opportunity to really take stock of where your life is. I'm going to be doing a workshop here coming soon about really looking at our internal gardens, our sacred gardens, and kind of like I said, getting in the dirt and like looking what didn't work last year and what I wanted to have happen last year, and how can I, you know, either transplant, or maybe that actually withered on the vine and something new came across, and where you want to plant the seeds of intention, and then eventually doing the goal work, you know, planting the seeds of intention here in that workshop. And then I'm going to be doing another process that is about providing structure, because we do need that balance of both.
Thank you. Thank you. And I'm just bending down to pick something up here. Tell us, Joanna, where can people go to find you? And what kind of work are you doing today in the world?
So that's one of the things that I'm doing in the world. So people can find me. I like hanging out on Facebook right now, doing groups there. And also I have my business page, which is called Beautifully Chaotic Mamas. You can find me there. And speaking of new moons and full moons is where I meet with my community and deliver messages, what I call the session, which is messages from Mother Mary, Mother Earth, and Grandmother Moon. And we talk about what's going on in the cosmos with the zodiac. And we just have a fun time of what really needs to come through for these sacred markings of the lunar cycle. And then, like I said, the new thing that I'm offering this month is I'm doing this workshop called 10 Your Sacred Garden. So I'm really excited about where it's going.
Thank you, Joanna. So all of you who may or may not be listening to this show, I think it's beautiful. We're just living in the unknowing. All of you who are listening, if anything that Joanna said is said, wow. So go look her up on Facebook. She's easy enough to find. Her name is, you can see her name in the recording right there.
Yeah.
Find her, Beautifully Chaotic Mamas. What a beautiful website. I am a board certified dermatologist who is now working in the coaching business and healing business. I call myself a transformational coach because I work with you to transform the wounds that are holding you back into gold so that you can move forward in your life. So healing the past to move forward into your future. I mainly work using emotional freedom technique, tapping. I'm also certified in hypnosis and do past life regression and many other processes to help you on the way. And you can find me at impactful-living.com. Impactful, IMPACTFUL -living, LIVING.com. Also on Facebook, the same name. And this event we're doing once a month. Right now, it's the first Wednesday night of every month. I'm so glad you can come and be part of our conversation in the labyrinth. And I'm going to close out our sacred space, because if you open sacred space, it's important to close it.
Before we start, I just want to say thank you and deep gratitude for leading this conversation. That's one of the things that I like to do at the ending of my sessions, is to just bring forth that gratitude, because that brings us into that open heart chakra and brings us open to receiving more and being able to give more. So thank you so much for your time and effort today, Michael.
Thank you, Joanna. Thanks for being open to doing something completely spontaneous and crazy.
Yeah, that's me.
And so we welcomed in 6 directions. Feel your center. And in gratitude, we give thanks to the above and the below. We give thanks to our ancestors for coming and helping us and supporting us in this growth. We give thanks to the spirits and angels of the north. We give thanks to the spirits and angels of the west. We give thanks to spirits and angels of the south. And we give thanks to the spirits and angels of the east, the place of new beginnings. The new beginnings are the Ace of Wands, the illumination that we step into as we begin this new beginning after our journey into the labyrinth. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And that concludes this episode of Conversations in the Labyrinth. See you again next month.